So, like we usually develop a lot of our emotional triggers before the age of 10. And what that does is create stories in our brains based pretty much solely on fear. And out of that fear becomes our decision making process, our decision making model. And like the five um, major fears that come out of those situations are fear of failure, fear of loss and abandonment, fear of what other people think, fear of the unknown, and fear for safety and security. You can pretty much boil down everything that happens to us in our childhood to one of those five fears, and then think about that and the story that it creates, and then the beliefs that it creates out of those stories, and then the behaviors that come out of those beliefs and the consequences of those behaviors, and so on and so forth. And that's, how we develop. Like you take that last comment, for instance, about three marriages and all of this. Think about perspective, everything that's happened to Halle in her life, and all. You think about somebody now. How many women in the history of the world can realistically say they've been in consideration for the most attractive woman on the planet? How many women can really realistically say that in the history of the world? It's probably just a handful, right? How can anyone speak to the perspective of Halle Berry that's never walked in those shoes? Like, so that's it. All it's all perspective. It's all, and yeah, we have a right to deal with people. How we don't have to take people's traumas on, and we don't have to deal with however that those behaviors that come out of those traumas. But I just have perspective and empathy. That's all. That's what I'm basically trying to say.
I think one perspective that we haven't hit that I think is important is it's not just in this case Holly and Van. Okay, she has children, and they have also been in the very volatile divorces with her ex-partners. And so she not only is thinking for herself, but I do believe she's also thinking for her children as well, because we all know that all of her divorces were pretty nasty. And this last one was drug out, knocked down, years in the making. And it's very traumatic when you also have other people to think about, like your children. That can make a big change and a big swing in the way her perspective is looking. But let's check out some stats, y'all. I was so into this. We got great stats, and I'm like all up in this conversation. I'm like, I need a glass of wine. So, according to a 2022 survey of American Psychological Association, 64% of couples said financial stress contributed to the breakdown of their relationships, with many citing money issues as the root cause of their problem. Wow, money is pretty powerful. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services reported that individuals who experience financial setbacks or significant debt have a 30% higher likelihood of experiencing depression and anxiety, which can affect their ability to trust and move forward in a relationship. So, Yolanda, our insurance broker to the stars and dealing with money, why do some people, especially women, stay in financially dependent relationships even when they're not happy? Is this what's holding them back?
Because they got nowhere to go. They have nowhere to go. They probably
So,
didn't
what would
think.
you suggest for them?
And I tell, oh goodness, I tell all women this, and I like this is going to be very unpopular, but make your money. I hate to say, make your money, sis.